Thanks for tuning in, guys, to the Pest and Lawn Ginja, and today we're going to go over how and why we level with topsoil. All right, here we are, day 4 of this leveling project, and I'll tell you what, most of the problem is I just don't have enough time during the day, so I'm supplementing this at night between work and family, but I'm super excited. Now, I got a lot of new materials in. This whole pile right here is just mulch. We're going to save that for another day, but I've got all this dirt. Now there's a couple of reasons why I'm going to be using this dirt. The primary issue that I'm facing is I've got a lot of areas in my backyard that are almost 3-4 inches off in the slope. And I didn't quite have enough sand, and I wanted to use the majority of it as sand because of the drainage issues, because the majority of the areas I'm having problems with are actually in dominant shade areas. And so having that sand and the capability of the water to drain, 3-4 inches into the clay is a much better option than where I'm at now. But I've got a couple of issues that I've addressed in the past, but not quite aggressive enough. So I want to attack those today. My issue is this fence line, and it's not even the problem on my side, it's my neighbor's side. So what's happening is I didn't quite get enough dirt on their side, and everything is sloughing off and just kind of pushing out every time he waters and every time I water. So the goal today is to get enough dirt on the fence line. And just to give you a little bit of history, what I found out was, so we had railroad ties all along that border, and when they put the fence in, they pulled out the railroad ties, but they didn't smooth out the area. They didn't actually push dirt into it. So we've got a little bit of a V-shaped trench along the entire fence. So that's what we're going to focus on today, is getting enough soil and kind of compacting it down so we can fix this fence line. Then the rest of that dirt that I end up with, I'm going to end up putting it back in the back to continue to fix my sloping issues. Now that was pretty quick and easy. I want to say I spent about 40 minutes on this. I went through about 4 wheelbarrows full of topsoil. The soil I'm using is kind of a sandy loam. It does have a lot of dirt in it, but it's got some sand in it. Pretty happy with the way that it leveled. Now along the fence line, I went and compacted it pretty heavily. When we get about 6 inches out, I didn't compact it as heavy because a lot of that bluegrass is going to fight through it. But I did go through, and you'll see here I needed the grass. Now I did that because I want to get the grass to stick upwards, so that way it has more incentive to find the sun. And a lot of it, believe it or not, it's going to grow in. Those rhizomes are going to shoot, and this will all fill in probably late summer, early fall. And so we got a couple of choices here. We can hit it with Tenacity, make sure that we don't get any of those weed seeds germinating, which I'm pretty sure I'm gonna make sure I get that done after I do my side as well. But you can either overseed this, or we could just be really patient and let it grow towards the fence. So I leave it up to my neighbor. He says he wants to be a little bit patient on it, but we'll see what the Ginja does, right? All right, now that I completely slayed the neighbor's fence, we can move on to my side of the property. And I'm gonna show you a couple of spots that are really uneven and kind of show you my trouble areas. And we're just gonna follow the same rule of thumb that I did over on the other side of the neighbor's fence. Now, just to show you, my side of the fence is looking pretty good. Would I say it's level? Not really, that's gonna come over time. But I was able to fix 2 to 3 inches at a time, so I can't be upset with that. Now my big problem areas are right here, and I'm going to show you a couple of things here that I'm extremely frustrated with. Is I've got my water box that sits about right there, and this whole level, it's about 4 inches off. I put the sand down, and we're still, I don't know, 2 inches off. But this whole thing is like a giant roller coaster. It is frustrating, to say the least. And then we come around this corner, this big blob of sand right here. This whole level was off almost 5 inches. And if we get down, you can totally see it's real bad. So I'm going to need a lot of the dirt into this area and get it changed. And it'll take most of my problem areas down, but this whole area here has got to come way up. And you can see that pile of dirt that I have here. Just for reference, this whole area goes just like a roller coaster. These areas are tough. Now the reason why I'm so fixated with these areas is simply because the water runs off and it stays super wet there. Then I get dry spots over here because I have to compensate with my sprinklers to keep everything in one spot. And I can't do that anymore, especially since I've got the new reel mower. I've got it smooth, which it'll cut fine, but this area almost becomes unusable, especially when the kids want to get on the trampoline. I'm moving the trampoline and it's kind of ricketing, and then it pushes the dirt around too when the kids are jumping and bouncing. So I'd rather just fix it, deal with an ugly spot temporarily, so that way in the long run, it looks good and be the Joneses, baby. Enough talking, let's move the dirt, let's get going. Now I used about half a yard of dirt at the neighbor's house, and I've got the extra yard and a half that I'm moving to my backyard. Now this might look a little crazy, but trust me when I say it might just barely be enough. Finally slayed that dirt and got it back on the lawn where it needs to be. Now, I know it's a little deceiving. That was 2 yards of dirt, and I have 1 wheelbarrow left that I'm gonna save to the side for the front yard. But I've got these 2 piles over here, and then I ended up with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 wheelbarrows over here. And honestly, it's gonna work really, really well. Now, I'm not expecting perfection at this point. So the next steps that I'm gonna be taking, a normal landscape hard rake where it's got the hard edge on top, the hard prongs on the front. We're just gonna kind of heave these piles over. Now I'm gonna get them somewhat level. Now in this area where I already have a ton of sand, I'm gonna end up using the shovel, and what we're gonna do is we are basically going to knead it all together. So I'm gonna take the shovel, I'm gonna shovel into the sand and just kind of heave it up and over the top and kind of mix it in with one another. And then after that, I'm gonna take my little pounder over here and we are going to flatten it out, try to get it as level as possible. Again, I'm not shooting for perfection. Now I took my time and I kind of developed a little bit of a system of where I would use the tamper to kind of compact everything down. Then I would use the bow rake along the perimeter of the concrete border edge that I have to make sure that it was level there. And then I'd use the tamper again, just kind of compact. And then I would use the Levelawn to go over to final pass. Now the Levelawn just kind of let me know if we were somewhat level. And if I had some areas where the Levelawn passed it over and I had gaps underneath, I put some more dirt and then I hit the tamper again and I would just kind of massage it through. Now after late night's work, I ended up turning the sprinklers on just see if I could get enough water. I put probably 0.1 of an inch or about 10 minutes of water on it. I didn't really want to disrupt the leveling that I did, but I want to make sure there was enough moisture to keep the compaction. Hard work's finally paying off, and I'm really excited about the progress that I'm making. Now, I actually figured out a couple of tricks. Now I want you guys to remember this area alone I was leveling in some places 6 inches and then just kind of smoothing it down to ground level to meet up with the grass line. Now this tamper, I'm really pounding it in and kind of spending my time a little bit because I want to make sure that there's a certain amount of compaction. That way when the water hits it, I'm not going to have to worry about the whole thing just kind of sloughing downwards. Now afterwards, I'm going to grab my Levelawn, really level it out. And in some cases, I'm scraping a little bit off the top where I've compacted it too much. Now, however, what the Levelawn is going to expose is my low areas. So I'm really watching the middle of the Levelawn and to see if the edges are digging in. Now, if I've got a nice smooth surface, then awesome. But if I notice that the Levelawn is actually pushing dirt away, then I'm gonna go back to the table with my tamper
and continually pound it back in. Now the tamper is kind of nice because it's square. It will also expose low areas where you can feel the tamper just kind of leaning one way or another. And in those instances, I'm going to end up grabbing more dirt with either the Levelawn or the bow rake, and I'm going to push it into those areas that I've exposed with the tamper. And that has really allowed me to get more precise. Now, I'm not looking to be balanced completely level, just doing my best to set myself up for a nice overseed. Then I'm going to end up starting the process all over again, just starting with my bow rake, just kind of guesstimating how well I can level it out. Now it's important to remember that we need to leave more dirt on top of the soil and not try to level it out with the bow rake, because we're going to be using the tamper to compact it and push it down. Now once I figured out this little system, I was really happy with it. Time went by a lot faster and I felt like I was able to get a more precise level with this technique. Now it's important to remember that after this process is finished, that you do want to get the dirt wet so it does compact. Now I ran my sprinklers for about 5 minutes at a time, then I wait a half hour, and then another 5 minutes time, wait a half hour. Now the point of this exercise isn't to make it a soaking wet muddy mess. It's really just to make sure that it's naturally compacting and that the soil is not going to go down, because if I notice that the soil starts dipping again, I can easily put more dirt in and re-level. So over the last couple of days I've spent some time with my cylinder mower and rolled it. You guys can rent a roller from your local hardware store and really flatten things out. Now, is it completely level? No. Is it smooth? Yes, very, very smooth. I'm gonna be really happy with the end product. Now, there's a couple of these areas that over time they're gonna settle, and I'm gonna have to bring a little bit more dirt in, but you can see how well I've kind of flattened this out. Some of these areas got a little bit too wet yesterday when I ran the roller over it. Scuffed the top. I'm not too concerned about that because the next stop is seeding. Using that Tenacity and getting some more seed down. I'm getting really excited with the progress that I'm making. There is still more to come on this leveling series, but if you guys have any questions or concerns, hit me up in the comments. You know where to find me. Till next time, guys, the Pest and Lawn Ginja. We're slaying.